in Ecuador was very hard to live.
But what made you want to run for National Assembly?
We traveled from Quito to Guayaquil by foot. Democracy. That was our main purpose.
Any Ecuadorian, they think most of the politicians are crook.
Fernando was killed precisely by the organized crime. That the shooting was started. It was about 66 or 56 or some shoots. I lost my wife into the chaos. Country couldn't actually protect the assassinate because they got killed as well in jail. I have never seen anything like this before in my life. The gangs are pretty close and they work with us.
What's important about not having correísmo in Ecuador?
He's been prosecuted by the state right now, and he's found guilty for corruption.
It was the safest city that I had ever experienced anywhere in the world. People who try to extort money through the threat of violence. How did the cartels get a foothold in Ecuador?
The fight against organized crime and organized gangs started with Lenny Moreno. He's doing a good job against the organized crime. Fighting against the gangs and the organized crime is not just putting more policemen into the streets. I believe that there will be better days for Ecuadorians to live. There will be better days for Ecuadorians. Political class are starting to understand that we have to work together against the main enemy. Our culture, like you said, it is friendly. I mean, it's totally hospitality is our main way of living. The problem in Ecuador too is.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the channel. Jesse Bayer, joined today by Jorge Peñafiel. This is going to be exciting. I'm really looking forward to this interview. So Jorge is somebody that I've known for a number of years in his role as an attorney. He has since been elected to the National Assembly, to Congress here in Ecuador, and has been in that role as well now for, let's see, where are we at? We're in probably what, 5, 6, 7, 8 months, something like that. And so, yeah, we're going to chat with Jorge today. He's obviously a native Ecuadorian, fluent in English as well, has the legal background, is now into politics. So he's really, we're really lucky to be able to interview him on the channel. We're going to dive into, some of the history, obviously, of course, his background, some of the history of the country, of, sort of the lead up to the situation that we're in today, get into some of the politics, some economic stuff. So very much looking forward to this. Jorge, I really appreciate you taking the time.
Well, Jesse, for me, it's a great pleasure to be here. Like I told you before, it's a kind of like a surprise for me seeing you in this role as well, because we were many years ago, we were in this role, client attorney. So now it's for me a pleasure as well. Thank you very much for the invitation, and well, let's roll.
Awesome. So Jorge, just share with us a little bit, just in terms of kind of where you grew up and what was life like prior to your professional life.
Well, I'm a normal Ecuadorian Quitanian citizen, and as a child, I was born in the south part of Quito, which is not. Let's say normally it's a part of the city that is not known as the most important one, if you can say. I would say it as a normal citizen. My family is a middle class family. It was a middle class family. I grew up in a normal family in a normal neighborhood, doing normal things as sports, things in school and stuff like that. And after about 8 years, I moved out from the south and moved into the north of Quito, which is a totally different way of thinking, of the people way of thinking. And I would say it was pretty good for me, because I got the two parts or the two ways of thinking and stuff like that. Afterwards, I would say I studied in a private school in the beginning, and then I moved in a school ruled by the church, by Catholics, by a Catholic church. So it was kind of cool because I got to see both sides as well. So in general, I would say I had a great childhood, normal childhood. Not even the politics wasn't into my path at all. But when I grew up, I actually got into it totally.
Okay, so you, if you don't mind sharing, I think we're a similar age. I'm 41. Are you in that range as well?
40
40.
exactly.
Okay, so you were born somewhere around 83, 83.
83,
Yeah,
83.
okay.
Yeah.
All right. So you grew up in Quito in the 80s and 90s. How different was it then than it is today?
Totally different. No
Totally
technology.
different.
No technology. We only had one TV in my house when I was 8, 7 years old, something like that. And when I turned about 14, I think I got my own TV in my own room. So it was kind of cool. Well, 80s and 90s was in Ecuador, was very hard to live because the it actually the moment right now, the political moment and the security problem right now we have in the country is pretty much compared to the one we had in the 80s and 90s, I would say. So it was kind of different, kind of hard to live in Ecuador in those times because Ecuador was a very poor country, so we didn't have any, or not any, but really few ways of getting into anything. If you wanted to do anything, you should have had a lot of money, or some money at least to do stuff, to live a, let's say, wealthy life or something like that. Um, it was hard, but it was fun because we used to have this normal life with people, with students, with family and stuff like that. And families in Ecuador, as you know, probably, or for sure, they are pretty close together because they always live in the same areas. They live close and stuff like that, so they keep themselves together because that's our culture. So it's kind of hard, but at the same time, I would say it was fun because we have this culture and this stuff. For us, it was cool. I mean, it was for me, it was a very good childhood.
Did you study English in Ecuador or did you live overseas for a period of time?
I've lived in the United States for 1 year as a foreign exchange student, my senior year in the high school. That's why I've learned English there, you know.
Sure.
And then afterwards, I came back here and I studied a little bit more, but not quite much.
Mhm.
The much I know of English, I got it from my foreign student year overseas.
Okay. Wow, you're a fast learner. Okay, what made you want to get in? I know obviously you were an attorney. We can kind of probably skip that part so we can get more into the politics and stuff like that. But what made you want to run for National Assembly?
Well, politics has been into my blood since I was very young. Since I was about 13 or something like that, I got into a lot of political parties and stuff like that, or being close to them. My dad actually um, gave me a lot of that too, because he used to be in late 90s. He used to be part of a political party, so he took me to the meetings and stuff like that, and got me into those relationships with the politicians and stuff. And after getting into that field, I actually started liking it, and that's why I started thinking about my country, the way the country can change and do better stuff, uh, equality for people and stuff like that. So when I got into law school about 2003, 2002, I think it was, I started doing college politics, and got into the whole thing. afterwards, I got graduated. I started my profession. I started working into my profession about 10 years. And then I started my political life again about 2017 or something like that. And then I started to do politics with politicians and stuff like that. And when I had the opportunity, I ran for the assembly, and now I am a congressman, a total congressman right now.
Did you hold political office prior to being in the assembly, or you were just kind of doing stuff behind the scenes politically?
But behind the scenes,
Mhm.
arranging things, organizing meetings, organizing stuff, working with politicians into laws and stuff like that. So we can, so we started doing stuff. Actually, let me tell you something. I once with a lot of politicians from my party, we traveled from Quito to Guayaquil by foot. It took us about 25 days to do so,
Wow.
and we did it because of political purposes. We did it because we needed media to see us. We needed to give a message to the people and stuff like that. We ran a lot of things. When we walked the whole thing, we stopped in every single town and
Wow.
stuff like that. It was very, very cool. We did it Quito to Guayaquil once and back Guayaquil to
Wow.
Quito years after that. It was
And
cool.
what was the principle? Was there a principle sort of message you were trying to get out at that time, or?
Yeah, democracy. That was our main purpose. Democracy against tyranny, democracy against corruption, democracy against old politics and stuff like that.
Mhm.
So that was our message, and we did it because of that. With about 20 people from our party, we camped in every single town by the road. It was very cool. It was very cool. I remember that it was in 2009, I think it was, or 10 or something like that. We did
Mhm.
it. I was very young, or in my 30s, or
Yeah.
getting there.
Wow. So, I mean, Ecuador has a really, checkered history when it comes to corruption and just kind of almost like if you talk to pretty much any Ecuadorian, and this might be true everywhere in the world actually, but if you talk to just about any Ecuadorian, they think most of the politicians are crooks. They feel like a lot of the presidents have stolen money and who knows what else. Obviously, we had the big, Obradech scandal when I was here. We had, under Correa, I recall there was a whole refinery that was supposed to be built that wasn't
Mm.
built, and there's these kinds of scandals are sort of commonplace here. And your party, as I understand it, and obviously was it Fernando Villavicencio and all of that, but your party is kind of known as the anti-corruption party. Is that accurate?
Totally accurate. And not just anti-corruption, but anti-organized crime too,
Right.
because the Fernando was killed precisely by the organized crime. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Our party is it's known as an anti-corruption, as an anti-Koreaism, and as an anti-organized crime party.
Yeah, I think when I asked the friends that I trust, because I don't know anything really about Ecuadorian politics.
You know
I've
pretty
been
much. You know a lot.
well. I mean, I know a little history, but I really don't. I ask people who I trust to tell me who to vote for,
Sure.
basically.
Sure.
And so when I asked, the two people that I go to for that kind of information, they both said Villavicencio. That was who I would have voted for. Obviously, he was tragically assassinated just prior to the
I was
election.
I was there. It was actually in my meeting because I actually organized the whole thing. It was
Oh,
in
wow.
my district. It was with me by his side, well, a couple meters behind him. He got killed. It was terrible. Well, we'll get into that later, I think, right?
Well, let's jump into it now since we're talking about
Sure.
it. So wow, so you actually experienced that firsthand. That I mean that must have been traumatic for you and of course for everyone involved, obviously his family and really the whole country. I mean, I think that there was such a shocking
Democracy.
event.
In
Yeah.
democracy.
So yeah, I mean, would you mind sort of telling that story?
Of course, no problem. Well, the it was in an event, in a political event, in a meeting where about 2,000 people were into the Coliseum. We did this. It was in a school, in a high school Coliseum here in North Quito. It was organized by me, and we were. It was meant to be at about 4 p.m. 4:30 p.m. started the event, and we did start the event. We did everything. Fernando never for security purposes, he never let anybody know when he was actually coming, because for security purposes he didn't want anybody to know, and we didn't know if he was actually coming to the event. But everything was organized for him to come. But if he didn't come, we wouldn't be mad or anything, because we knew it was for security purposes. And actually, I started seeing the security staff started coming, his security staff, and it was about 10 people. And I thought, all right, he's coming because of that, because his crew it was coming to secure the area and stuff. And actually, he came. He came. It was a pretty cool event. He gave a speech that was I was totally amazed with it, because he actually called us as his team, as his personal team, to fight against corruption and stuff like that. It was pretty cool. After the speeches, everybody gave a speech. I did too. After that, the event was ending, and we all the politicians from our party were actually um, coming out together, because we actually thought we were the media was waiting outside and stuff like that, so we all wanted to be together, and we started walking together, and a lady called me up to take a picture with me, and I was like, all right, I can do it, because no problem. And I actually took the picture with her. And after a couple seconds after that, the shooting started. It was about 66 or 56 or some shoots.
Oh
They
well.
It was terrible. So everybody was laid down and stuff like that. I lost my wife into the chaos. I actually started looking for her, and everybody was like, Jorge, lay down, because you are a candidate as well. You can get shot too. So get down. So, but my wife, and it was totally chaos. And after a couple seconds or minutes, I don't even know, my wife showed up, and I was with her and laid down and stayed calm. We didn't know if Fernando was dead or was hurt or anything. So we just waited. And after 10 minutes or 15 minutes or something, we actually walked out of the Coliseum. So we were actually shocked by the moment. After a couple minutes, we knew that Fernando was hurt. We didn't know he was assassinated, but pretty much it was terrible. And after half an hour, something like that, we actually got to know that he got shot in his head, and he was dead. So it was terrible for everybody, for the country, and I think it was for me as well, as a personal friend, because he was a friend of mine as well.
Yeah. Do you feel like that was a failure of security, of police, of planning, of like what do you think is the sort of at fault, of course, outside of the
Well,
cartel and yeah.
Well, I think it was a failure of everything together. I mean, his security wasn't ready for that. The police that actually that actually was with him. as well weren't the best ones into this matter. The whole moment was terrible as well, because it was a chaos as well. Without even shooting, it was a chaos to get out of there because it was too small.
Yeah.
A lot of people. So the whole thing was not well arranged, if I can say that. And of course, the great professional way these cartels work is something to point, because the cartels work. They were following him many weeks before the shooting, before the assassination. Watching him, getting information out of his team and stuff like that. And when they actually got the opportunity, saw all the things, all the ingredients together, they actually had the opportunity to do so, to give the hit, and they did it because they saw all the opportunity there. And afterwards, the thing that actually really makes me mad is that the country couldn't actually protect the assassinators, because they got killed as well in jail when
Mm.
were caught. So it was terrible. The whole thing was bad. I mean, the whole thing was terrible. It was. If there's anybody I can blame on these responsibility, I could probably say that it was the state and his enemies, which is the cartel, one of the cartels that work with these gangs and stuff.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, it's a totally tragic event in every way. If there's any good that could come out of something like that, it really sort of coalesced, I think, the country around getting rid of the cartels. And obviously we've seen everything that's going on now. So we'll get into some of that here in a minute. Okay, I remember at that time, so it really was such a sort of traumatic day for the country. I mean, this was massive news. I don't know if those things have ever gone on here before or not, but certainly not in my time here. Okay. And I remember seeing, I follow you on Facebook, and I remember seeing and some of your other socials, but I remember seeing you and other candidates in bulletproof vests after that. People obviously were frightened. It's sort of Ecuador in general, from my perspective, is a pretty peaceful culture, right? It's a pretty peaceful people. To have those kinds of events going on was really shocking.
It was shocking for everybody. Everybody. Let me tell you, I have never seen anything like this before in my life. I mean, I have never seen this kind of violence or political violence in my life at all. That's why when I got interviewed days after the event, I always said that this is the inauguration of narco politics in Ecuador, because narco politics for sure got inaugurated by this event of Fernando's assassination. And it showed us as citizens, and as people, that the gangs are pretty close, and they work with us into the way they do all over the world. And I'm pretty sure that all over the region, the gangs work as well as they do it here. But the difference is that we had here a hero that wanted to fight against them, so they had to get rid of him. That's why they assassinated him, and not all other people which that work with him or with the gangs, or are not as bad for the gangs as Fernando was bad as for them.
Mhm.
So let me tell you, after the assassination, I got to use this vest, a bulletproof vest, for about 2 months. And then when everything got a little bit cold, or more calm for the whole situation, we started to get rid of the vests too. And now I have a guard that is with me all the time, but not anymore with the vest, you know.
Mm-hmm. So you mentioned earlier your party, Movimiento Concertación. Is that
The
correct?
first one, though, that was my first one in the beginning when I was
Ah,
it was 10.
I
Right now it's
apologize.
construye is my political
Construye.
party.
Okay, forgive my ignorance on
It's okay.
on these things.
No problem. Not at
But
all.
you mentioned you mentioned that your party's one of the aspects of your party's platform is sort of anti-correísmo. Can you
Oui.
explain for people who don't know why, like what's important about about not having correísmo in Ecuador?
All right. Correísmo comes from Korea and Korea's regime. He was our president for 10 years from 2007 to 2017. He was known because he's a socialist, first of all, and then he is known because of his control of the over the Ecuadorian institutions. He got control over media, over the Congress, over the any other institution, over the controllers of Ecuador. So he got pretty much all the power or political power in Ecuador. That's why we call this moment of the of the history Koreaism, because it's his last name, of course. And when he was president during his period, he he's known for a lot of corruption, a lot of projects that got corruption involved, terrible corruption involved, like you said before, the refinery, Pacifico, Refinería del Pacífico is named, and many other uh, huge projects he started just for the purpose of getting money out of them into and getting into corruption and getting to their political party. He's been he's been prosecuted by the state right now. He's found guilty for corruption. That's why he lives in Belgium, or right now
Belgium.
Belgium, and that's he's totally he's a political, let's say, a political leader, but in a bad way because of his corruption issues and scandals. That's why we are anti-Koreaism as a political party, let's say.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so I got here, Jorge, in 2013. I moved to Loja. So I really only have, in terms of living life experience, I really only have that period of time and only in the Loja area. But when I got here and I lived in Loja for about 4 or 5 years in the city at that time, it was the safest city that I had ever experienced anywhere in the world. Like I had never been to a city where you didn't literally at all have to worry about who's around you ever. Like even at 2 o'clock in the morning. I know Guayaquil wasn't like that. I know Quito wasn't necessarily like that. There's other, it's not that the whole country was that way,
Of course.
but in general, safety in Ecuador was phenomenal. For the first number of years I was here. There was no such thing that I ever heard about, at least in this region, and I don't think in the Sierra at all, but you can correct me if I'm wrong. There was no such thing as, vacunadores, like basically people who try to extort money through the threat of violence.
Of course.
There was no political violence, as you mentioned. You didn't hear about the cartels, like I'm sure they existed, but it wasn't something you heard about. It seemed like a very safe and stable country, even in the places that aren't known for safety, like Guayaquil or Esmeraldas or a couple of places. It's still reasonably safe places. Places that I went frequently, or certainly Guayaquil and others that I visited, didn't feel worry about my safety even in those places. Then obviously international news has picked this story up, and we've had kind of this explosion of cartel related violence over the last period of time. What I want to start with which is I think it's been shocking to Ecuadorians. I think it's been shocking internationally as well. But what I want to start with, Jorge, is your opinion, your thoughts on how did the cartels get a foothold in Ecuador? Like, how did that happen?
Well, it's been happening since pretty much 3 decades at least. That's what I can say of the information I can reach on. The deal here is that you have to understand that Ecuador is in a very good geopolitical position in the world for these purposes, because we have Manta as a port, as a Pacific Ocean port, which is very well known for his exportations of drugs. Totally. So the geopolitical position Ecuador has right now regarding the when it was the Korea's regime, he actually supported that Ecuador had a world's citizenship. It was named by him. So everyone from all over the world could come into Ecuador and live without problem, or without having any problem with the legalization or anything regarding their background or anything like that. So it's a position with the international commerce, first of all, and the second thing, the easy way the people can come or could come into the country from all over the world was actually good for organized crime to start doing a lot of business here. So the presence of organized crime in Ecuador. It's since a long time ago, but it got concentrated. It got better. It got more professional when Korea got into the power, and when he actually gave the country this new constitution, where the world citizenship was actually into the law, and it was easy to come from all over the world without having to legalize anything, and and do business as fast and as good as they could or wanted to do. So that's why the crisis got into this moment, because organized crime had the opportunity, had the chance, had the position, the political position even, and the geographical position as well for international commerce, especially to the United States and the north part of the planet.
Okay. So really so that was Korea was 2006 to 16. So you feel like in that era is really when they got a lot
Oh
stronger.
yeah, oh, of
Mhm.
course. They got stronger, they got richer, and they had they had the opportunity to work with the politicians inside the country to change law, to change the institutions and stuff like that. So it was way easier for them to work with their partners into that way during Korea's era.
Okay, so then we had, Lenin Moreno came in 2016. Then we had 4 years of Lenin Moreno, which, I thought he did okay just because he didn't do much. But the consensus amongst Ecuadorians is he was terrible. Both the political left and the political right seem to agree on that. So we had 4 years of Moreno, where from my perspective, it's like not really much happened in any direction. Then we had Lasso elected, who's from the political right, businessman, banker. He was also wildly unpopular. So even folks from the political right also thought he was terrible and didn't
Terrible.
didn't didn't do anything. Yeah. So were those years, in terms of as it relates to the increase in crime that we saw later, that we saw more recently, I should say, were those years just sort of whatever had taken place up until then in terms of the power of the cartels, the power of organized crime, was just allowed to continue, and that just went on unchecked? Or
The fight against organized crime and organized gangs started when with Lenny Moreno. He
Okay.
started he started to fight against them, and that's why they started to fight back. And the increasement of assassinations, of homicides uh, around the country started with Moreno, precisely because of that, because he
Okay.
started fighting them. And well, he wasn't doing the best job, but he did started. He actually went against Korea, which is something to actually be thankful for. And after Moreno's fighting, or for Moreno's regime, he Lasso started his government with an inspirational hope, let's say, but he actually didn't wasn't up to the challenge, and he did some things good, but mostly he didn't actually care about corruption and stuff like that, and he started getting into corruption as well. So that's why he lost the people's support. And after a couple months after COVID, he lost its popularity, and then he went into the hole totally. He called up these Muerte Cruzada, which is these
Death Cross.
yeah, it's Death Cross, but I don't even know the name in English. But it's an institution that can be called up by the president, so both as assembly and presidential election had to be done again. So that's what we did, and then we are right now with this new president, and we as a new assemblist as well. That's pretty much what happened.
Mhm.
And why the organized crime got so wild right now is because since Lenny Moreno started fighting against them, they started to actually lose their power, or at least being at risk of losing their power. That's why they fought against the institutions, and that's why everything is all messed up right now, because we are actually taking over again the state that was taken over from us in Korea's regime and in Korea's era. That's the whole explanation, I would say.
Okay, great. So, Daniel Noboa was elected here recently. He, the speculation is that he may not have if Fernando Villavicencio was part of the election still. Um, he gets elected. He comes from, I believe, the wealthiest family in Ecuador. They're large exporters of bananas. They're in the banana business amongst lots of other businesses. So that's a very, very successful business family, well known. His father is quite a character who, was a well-known political figure here for many years. The perception, sorry, you wanted to say that?
Yeah, three times a presidential candidate as well. His father.
Right.
Three times
Uh,
or four times presidential candidate, and two of them was pretty close to win the election, actually.
okay. Um, so the perception, I don't know if this is the consensus, but what I understand more or less is the perception is that, Noboa is serious about fighting the cartels. There seems to be some optimism in the country around the potential success of that. Obviously, we've seen sort of, at least what we understand from the news, the prisons have been brought under control. There's been, many. Okay, well, you'll clarify in a second.
Yeah, yeah. I have my opinion into that, but yeah, he's doing a good job. I mean, in general, he's not doing the best job, but he's doing a good job against the organized crime gangs and stuff. Getting rid of them is not as easy as you can actually think of, because getting rid of the gangs here, it starts with getting rid of a lot of the people that work for the government, for the state, or the whole state. That's the thing. because they are into the security institutions as well. They worked into the commercial institutions as well. They work in private. They work in public. They work in the government as well, because you will never know who works for them. So fighting against the gangs and the organized crime is not just putting more policemen into the streets,
Right.
or giving or showing people, or showing the citizens you are taking them into the jail, or anything like that. I mean, some part of that is for sure that, but you have to fight against organized crime in a more intelligent way. I mean, you gotta have intelligence, real intelligence, for the government to know where they are actually working, and how they are actually working, who are working for them, into your own forces, because you have to know that they work exactly that way. They know they work in the shadows, not in the light. So that's something I think Noboa doesn't actually get, that is not actually getting into, is
Mm.
not actually worried about. And that's something we have to say, because if Fernando was the president, for sure, I'm pretty sure that he was for sure getting into that,
Mhm.
into that kind of intelligence needed by the security forces in Ecuador.
So do you, it sounds like you do, but do you think Noboa is sincere in his effort and intention to stamp out the cartels, or do you have your doubts overall?
I have my doubts. I
Okay.
have my doubts. The first doubt I have is that he's actually doing these because he wants a re-election, not because he wants to actually get rid of the gangs, or the organized crime. He wants his re-election. He wants to keep being the president of Ecuador. He wants to keep being the one that everybody relies on, but not really fighting against organized crime. Because first of all, organized crime cannot be fought by a whole single country, because we have to understand that this is a world's problem, region problem, and world's problem, because the first consumption markets are not into our region, are into the north part of the planet, you know
Mhm.
and our region has the same problems all over. If you go to Peru, you will find pretty much the same problems we have here. If you go to Colombia, you will find the same problems we find here. So we have to understand that this problem is not fought, or it cannot be fought by only one country. You have to understand that these problems have to be fought by the whole region and the whole world. And then you will find many theories of how to fight against organized crime. People say you got to legalize all over the world the drugs, so the market starts to disappear and stuff like that. I wouldn't believe that, but still, there are many theories of how to fight organized crime. And the only certain thing we have to say and we have to think is that it cannot be fought by only one country, by only one president, and by only one political project. You have to understand that this is a thing that actually goes above our heads totally.
Mhm. So I'm going to ask a question which you're free not to answer. But are you concerned at all that that the Noboa regime, family, etc., could be compromised in any way in this fight? Is that a concern?
There is always the doubt. I mean, I can say this because I am a congressman. I have immunity. All right, so I can say that because of that. But still, I believe that I have my doubts. Not that he's working with the gangs, but the situation is somehow good for his family's businesses and stuff, because the chaos is good for people who have power, and he has power. His family has power, over the presidential or the president of Ecuador, of being president of Ecuador. He has power regarding or even more than that a normal person could ever think of. So the chaos into these kind of things work for the people who have power, and he has power being a president or not.
Mm-hmm. Okay. In terms of the economic situation in the country, obviously security is very tied to that. We've covered some of that. There is an ongoing effort, of course. We'll see how effective, it is or isn't as time goes by. In terms of some of the economic stuff, do you and your party align with some of Noboa's plans and policies? Where do you, where don't you?
Well, I think Novoa is doing something that nobody could done it before as well. He's actually starting to show that he wants some economic future for the country. He actually raised up the. I think I get frozen. There you go. I'm back. I was telling you that he's starting to show up that he actually wants the Ecuadorian economy to be better, to improve during his presidency. And why do I say this? Because I see that he wants us to keep the dollar as our currency, which is something good for us. Is the most important thing as citizens, to keep the dollar as our normal currency. So he wants, and he's doing efforts to do so. So we are glad for that, for sure. We believe that he's making some mistakes on the tax policy he's actually giving, but still, it's still into the dollarization protection program, if it fits. We don't believe that he's the one that is going to give us the best moment of economical moment for the country, but he for sure will give us at least stability uh, into the next at least until the next election, which is on 2025. And then as a conclusion, I could say that he's doing well, but not the one who's going to take us over the hurdle.
What are some of the things, or are there things? I don't know. I don't know the exact makeup of the assembly currently. I know a lot of Correa's party got elected, so I know they have a big block. And then of course there's so many parties in Ecuador, so there's a lot of parties that have some amount that are elected, and of course I'm sure there's coalitions and kind of all that stuff that goes on. But what is your sense of sort of, are there legislative things that are being done that either your party is pushing or that you're excited about, that you can talk about?
We're pushing everything that has to do with better institutions in Ecuador. That has first of all, the second of all, we are supporting a lot of legislative laws and stuff, like initiatives regarding economic stabilization, dollarization, so well, keep the dollar as our currency, and security. The three main things we concentrate our work on is these three things. Security, economics, and anti-corruption as well. So I would say this, or reinstitutionalize the country, which is the third one. So these three things are our main purpose into this period. We believe we're doing a good job. The government, Novoa's block of assemblies, are doing good too into that. So that's why we are actually getting along with them. Not quite, not quite, but doing a good job together. That's what we believe. Right now, if you want to divide the assembly, into blocks, I could probably say that there are 5 blocks of representations there. First of all is the Korea, which is the biggest one, which is 51 assemblists. The second one is the government one, which is 25. The third one are us, which is 19. And then the Social Cristiano, which is the one from Guayaquil and the coast part. The fourth one with 18, and the last one is the Independence one, which is 15 more people. And then there are a couple more that don't have any party that actually represents, you know.
Mhm.
So that's pretty much how I see the assembly in Ecuador, and I believe that we are doing a good job into our purpose, at least our goal, which is these three the great columns we want to support. You know, we want to get over.
So it sounds like there's actually some functioning coalitions that are actually able to
Yeah,
get some stuff done currently,
yeah.
which is
At
great.
least in security. At
Okay.
least for the security, the whole assembly supported Novoa's plan to go against these organized crime gangs. You know.
Sure. Okay. Um, I know probably I'm sure you're almost out of time here. I had a couple of more things I wanted to get to if you can.
It's
Um,
okay. Go
okay.
ahead.
So well, let me just ask you this. Let's say let's use a time frame of, the next 5 to 10 years, or we could make it 3 to 8 if that's better. Are
Mhm.
you optimistic or pessimistic overall in terms of the safety and economy of Ecuador?
I am very optimistic. I am very optimistic. Whether Novoa gets reelected or not, because I am actually thinking of our own project and our own future as as politicians, because we believe as our party that we will be in power at some point in the future, and I believe that there will be better days for Ecuadorians to live and to feel secure and feel safe as well. And that's why I believe there will be better days for Ecuadorians. I believe the politicians are actually understanding that if we do not get together into main goals, main objectives as a country, as a political class as well, we will never get into this country we were once before. You know. So if you ask me, you are pessimistic or optimistic? I am optimistic because political class are starting to understand that we have to work together for against the main enemy that the country has, the whole country has, which is organized crime, which is organized gangs, which is poverty, which is a opportunity for everybody. You know, we have to give opportunity for everybody, or at least try to get opportunity for everybody, for everyone, and start to decrease poverty rates, infant nutrition rates as well, which is very important for the country, for the future of this country. And if we do that, if we get together into that, and if we work together for getting those objectives done, I am pretty sure that the Ecuadorian people will see better days, and the days they are actually expecting as well.
Mhm. I want to ask you a couple of questions on sort of self-defense laws and penalties for crimes. So one of the perceptions, I think both, certainly I think, yeah, I think probably amongst, nationales, Ecuadorians, as well as foreigners who live here, sort of in the community that I'm in, is that people kind of commit crimes with immunity, essentially, that lots of crimes are not prosecuted. The law enforcement, they do what they can, but there's not response times can be slow, and there can be, there's corruption, like you mentioned. So some of the some of the things that I think a lot of people would, or at least I'm interested in asking the question and understanding is, do you think that penalties for crimes need to be increased legally? Well, let's start there, and then I'll get into some of the
For sure.
self-defense stuff.
For
Okay.
for sure, for sure. I think Ecuadorian law is it's been made for a different society, for a society that actually existed 30 years ago or 20 years ago. And right now, we are into a totally new and different position, a new, totally different society that needs to uh, feel the law actually working into them and into others. I mean, if innocent people see that a gang or anybody who makes or who does a crime or who commits a crime doesn't get the firm law, or gets rid of the I forgot the word, but still,
In
I mean,
Spanish?
if the innocent doesn't see the crime, it's been prosecuted well, or something like that, for sure, the innocent will feel that he can actually commit a crime with immunity as well. So
Mhm.
that's why we have to show the innocent and the delinquente. How do you say that? I don't even remember.
Yeah, like criminals,
Or
essentially.
the
Yeah.
criminal, the
Yeah.
criminal, or the criminal, for sure. Uh, that's something we have to work on. We have to increase for sure, increase their penalty for sure. I believe that's something we have to do, and we have to work into the judicial system as well, for to make good judges, to give the society good judges, to give the society more justice as well, and better security institutions as well, better police, better military, and everything regarding security. So when we do that, the message will be for sure that the law is starting to feel into the society, and increasing their penalties, giving justice to people, and making a judicial system better will for sure give more this feeling of being secure, feeling safe, and stuff like that. For sure, will be better for the society.
And do you feel optimistic that that's going to happen, or is in process, or is any of that taking place?
It's in process. I think it's in process. The Noboa started the process with this declaration of a war against gangs. I think he actually made the first step. We have to keep going with it. We have to keep working with the government into this project, into this matter. But it doesn't, like I said before, it is not just that we have to do. We have to actually get into the international gang fighting against organized crime in the world. So we need international help for sure, and many cooperation with other countries, especially our neighbors, which is Colombia and Peru. And for sure, if we get all these together and we actually get these objectives done with the help from international countries, I am pretty sure we will have better days and more justice for all the people around the region and Ecuador.
Is self-defense laws part of that equation? Where I come from, if somebody is armed and breaks into your property, basically you can shoot him in the head and you're not going to have any legal issues of any kind.
Where are you from? Arkansas or what? Or where?
Well, right. Well, actually, I'm actually originally from Vermont, but there's a lot of
Upper.
states like that, and
Yeah,
even
yeah,
some
yeah.
states, some states don't have super strong self-defense laws, but most have a pretty
No, I
reasonably
understand. I,
strong.
I I totally understand. I understand American society pretty much. And let me tell you, well, that kind of laws wouldn't match as well as they match over there here in Ecuador, because in Ecuador we have a different culture. Totally, our culture, like you said, it is friendly. I mean, it's
Yeah.
totally hospitality is our main way of living. But we have to start to change our culture as well, because there will be no future for us if we keep doing what we've been doing since ever. I mean, right now we have to change some stuff, and we have to change our culture a little bit so we can actually start to make the rule of law the rule as well. So that's something we have to do with force if it's needed, because that's something we have to say. The problem in Ecuador too is that the law, it's been something people wouldn't or didn't actually care at all, or not at all, but at least didn't care as much as they should have. So right now we have to make institutions stronger. We have to make security forces stronger, and we have to make the law enforce the law as well. So if we do not do that, we will the gangs will for sure take over everything, for sure, because they don't only work with commercial or for commercial purposes. They work for to take over the society totally. They take over your children. They take over the unemployment people. They take over institution or public institution institutions totally. They I mean they take over everything if you do not, as government, as the state, something really radical, which is things together in the right way in order for them to understand, and people, normal people, innocent people, to understand as well that here there is the rule of law, and the rule of law has to take over every single gang or criminal.
Okay, Jorge, thank you so much. Is there anything either that I haven't covered that you'd like to mention? And also, is there, I don't know if you're still practicing as an attorney, if people can reach out to you for that or not. But if there's any links or anything you'd like to shout out, or anything you'd like to say.
Well, thank you very much, Jesse. For me, it has been a pleasure to talk to you about these Ecuadorian problems and countries' possible solutions. Let me tell you, there is a long way path ahead of us. And what we are trying to do right now is starting to put all things together in the beginning, so our future generations for sure will have to keep going and do what we couldn't, or we have, or we will not do this period of our lives. For the Ecuadorian people, keep doing what they're doing, keep being as hospitable as they are, keep being as friendly as they are, because they are. And but you have to understand, people has to understand that politicians, we as politicians, have to do this job. I mean, we have to give hope to people. We have to enforce people and institutions and security forces and stuff like that, so people understand that here there is the rule of law. And after that, for sure, we will have better days for everybody, as well as expats like you and the people that actually come over this country, which is beautiful. I will never leave this country. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much. I don't think I ever will either. Well, Jorge, again, thank you so much for your time. This was a really insightful interview. Our viewers are gonna enjoy this thoroughly. So again, I really appreciate it. And talk to you again soon.
Talk to you again soon, Jesse. Thank you.
Hey guys, thanks for watching. Subscribe to our channel right here. Check out our real estate channel right here for content that you will absolutely love. Click right here. And if you want to know how we got here, click here.